First line is, change is a difficult thing. We have been living with change, a great deal of change, forced upon us since last March, and it's probably going to continue for the rest of our lives. Some of us have a hard time even trying a new restaurant because the one that we really love going to is now closed. Some of us even have a hard time choosing a new cereal because the one we want is no longer on the shelf. And one of the major changes that is going to occur here is whether or not you get a new pastor. Now, there's a possibility you may like that person. There's also a possibility you may not like that person. That person is going to be different from any other pastor you have ever met in your short lives. Are you going to be comfortable? Are you going to be able to talk? I'm not too sure about the future. Now, it doesn't make any difference what it is in our lives. These are some legitimate concerns that we, as human beings trying to protect ourselves, a natural reaction, ask ourselves. When we think about that change in our lives, each one of us is going to have a different reaction because sometimes some people can adapt better to change than others. And when something new occurs that kind of throws us off, there's a shot of a mental adrenaline going through our brains. And it's almost like a mental airbag pops up and stops us because we're not sure exactly what we want to do. And we realize that if we change something, we're also going to change our worldview. Now, as Christian people, we know that change is a part of many, many, many biblical stories. Story after story tells of people who have to move from one land to another land. There are people who abandon their jobs because a new teacher comes along and says, "Follow me." Women who are safe at home doing their thing lock up their homes and they leave their families and they follow these group of men to support them. We have miracles, like in this morning's lesson, feeding 5,000 with bread and fish, the deaf hearing, the blind seeing, and the dead walking. Change is a part of what goes on in the Bible. In this morning's lesson from Luke, we see a variety of responses to this experience that happens in the cemetery. One man wants a change in his life because he's been going through hell for years. Other people in the town had it dumped on them and they weren't too sure. They didn't expect that when they woke up that morning. There are others who learned to accept it because it is now a part of their lives. The common ingredient in this story is that there is the fear of the unknown. What will you do with me, Jesus, the Son of the God of the Most High? What do you want? This is a question of the man who had been possessed for many, many years. It was thought at the time that if you were sick, some sort of demon got into you. And that carried for centuries, that when you sneeze, you're getting rid of the devil in your system. And so someone would say, "God bless you," because you're getting better. And that's fairly recent if people do the same thing, even though we don't do much sneezing these days. The man was in pain. He had been in mental and physical hell. His days were endless, filled with disorientation and struggle. He lived in a cemetery, and it wasn't some well-groomed military cemetery where everything was in order, but he lived among the tombs, hiding behind them, living there. And Dr. Luke has painted a picture of living death. We do not even know his real name. He calls himself Legion. And a legion of that time was 6,000 Roman soldiers. He was telling us symbolically that my life is filled with crap that I do not know. It hurts. Trouble had moved in and had taken over his life. What will you do with me, Jesus, the Son of the God Most High? And the man is there on the shore. He sees Jesus coming across the lake in the boat with other disciples, and he runs, and he shows some conflict in his life. All of us have heard that the gospel can change lives. And we're nervous about change in our lives. What do you want with me, Jesus? How much change do you expect? Do I have to love that person that isn't very nice? Do I have to be comfortable with that person? Do I have to pray for my enemies? Where is that peace that passes all understanding, Jesus? I know you offer, you call these things, and you expect them, but I know you're not really talking to me. I'm going to stand on the sidelines, and I'm going to wait to see what's going to happen. And Legion says, don't torment me. It's the demons inside of him speaking. He knows that Jesus wants to call him out of the tombs. He's on a way from daily death to a life that is different. But he's adjusted to this life. Any of us who have any demons, and we all do, we all have demons. They may not be the devil, but we all have something going on in our lives that we're not too crazy about. We may be in a relationship that kind of irritates us, it's not healthy, but it's familiar, and we've learned how to adjust. We may have a job that's not very exciting anymore, but it's a job, and this is not the time to be changing jobs. Self-destructive habits have been part of our lives. Maybe we inherited them from one of our parents. And we like hanging around, or we're so used to hanging around the tombs marked guilt and grief. And even though we know that they aren't the best things to be doing in life, we know that they are familiar to us. We've heard the phrase, the grass is greener on the other side, but we look at it and we think to ourselves, I don't know about that. I'm not too crazy about that shade of green. I think I'll stay here. I know what's going on. I'm not sure what that is going to do. And so Legion says, what do you want to do with me? Oh, Jesus, the Son of the God of the Most High. And Jesus offers something else. It's an invitation to change our lives. And that invitation comes to us as we're in the tombs, no matter what we may call them. It asks us to make an adjustment in our lives. The story, which is also recorded in Matthew and Mark, continues to go crazy. We have this semi-naked man yelling at Jesus. We have a bunch of pigs, which is very anti-Jewish, so get rid of them anyway, according to the Jewish writer. They're now possessed by the demons. They jump off the cliff into the Sea of Galilee. The townspeople are upset. What are you doing? What are you doing to us? The farmer's upset. And they see the ex-tomb man, who has kind of been a local tourist trap for them to go down and watch him do his thing. And they run away because they can't take it. What's he going to do with us? Is he going to put them in us? Are we going to jump off the cliffs? Jesus and his power hit the area like a bulldozer. What do you want to do with me, Jesus? And Jesus says, everything. He asks the same thing of the townspeople, and they say, nothing. No thank you. Don't slip when you get back into the boat. Change has been dumped, and they are not happy. They are not happy at all. Things may have been odd. Okay, we get somebody down to the cemetery running around. But we can live with it. Now he's healed. He's walking around the village. They see him in Publix. We're not sure what to do with him. Aren't you the one that, yeah, we won't talk to you. We don't know what's going to happen. But he's now a part of their lives. And he can no longer be ignored. People are nervous and upset. The farmer is very happy. He would have preferred selling his pigs to the Roman army, but now he's not going to get anything for his pigs, because who wants a floating pig? The legion man may be all healed, and that's nicey-nicey, but everybody else seems to be upset. Change in our lives as individuals is going to affect those around us. Maybe that's one of the reasons why we are not too crazy about change, because we think about other people. It's like one of those kaleidoscopes that you used to be able to purchase, and maybe they still sell them. And you shift it a little, and all of a sudden there's a new pattern. And so when change occurs to us, so does in our relationship with our family and friends. We have made a change, and it affects other people. And for each one of us, like with that man in the cemetery, Jesus Christ is standing here, and he is offering us that opportunity to change. He doesn't force that change on us. That's one thing that's so wonderful about God. It's not forced. We have an opportunity to make a difference, to make a choice. What do we want to do with our lives? The man was excited. He was moving out of his living hell. The townspeople and the farmer told him, go home. Get back in your boat. Get out of here. We've had enough of you strangers. And if you noticed, if you remember from the lesson, Luke records several times that they were filled with fear. Luke likes to use that phrase a lot, filled with fear. Because nothing in the world was ever going to be the same, because Jesus had come to their lives. And once the problem is with the gospel is that we have choices. We've seen the gospel change lives. What are we going to do about that change? And we have a choice. We live in a world that is irrational. We live in a world that's mixed up. A world that we hear so much negative news. What are we going to do? And so we have an opportunity to call Jesus Christ to be a part of our lives. And that doesn't mean everything is going to be a wonderful. It doesn't work that way. And some people get so upset. I've talked to Jesus for a few seconds and nothing's changed. It doesn't work that way. And so people give up, because they're not getting their own way. But when we say we want Jesus Christ to be a part of our life, we're going to stray. We're going to mess up. We're going to fall down. We're going to grow. And things are are going to be different for us, but never perfect. The Japanese have this wonderful proverb, fall down 7 times, but get up 8. In our journey, if we want to, we can become closer to Jesus Christ, even when we fall down and the journey becomes difficult. C.S. Lewis wrote, if you want to get warm, you have to stand by a fire. If you want to get wet, you have to get into the water. If you want to know joy, peace, and eternal life, you must get close, or even into that source. I don't think any of us could imagine what Legion's life was like. He was alone. He lived in a cemetery. He was despised by the community because there were pigs near him. And he was tormented mentally and spiritually. He was called unclean, probably the worst insult that somebody in the Jewish lifestyle could call anybody else. He was not accepted. He was treated as worthless. And Jesus offered him a better life. Each one of us has something going on in our lives that we would like to change. I'm not sure, I do not know what things and where you are stuck, where you feel alone. But I firmly believe that asking Jesus Christ to be a part of your life, and we don't have to have some Billy Graham experience or Joel Osteen experience. But having Jesus a part of your life is a step in the beginning. You're not alone. And I think that's the good news of the gospel lesson. That with Jesus as a part of our lives, we will not be alone. God is not through with us yet. And even if there are moments when we believe it and say, I've had it, this whole thing is full of it, I don't want any more to it because it hurts, it cannot be farther from the truth because Jesus calls us from the truth. What will you want from me, Jesus? And Jesus says, everything.